Hi and welcome to Stamp with Angela. I'm Angela Palmer and thank you for joining me today. I'm looking forward to sharing the cards that I've got for you and sharing some tips with dry embossing. So that's using embossing folders to get some texture onto your cards. I really appreciate you being here, whether you're watching it live or you're watching the recording later or even watching the video on YouTube. I appreciate your support and I hope that my video and cards inspire you and give you some ideas with your crafting as well. So today I'm going to be using the Dainty Delight Bundle, which is one of my favorites, and I'm going to be using a couple of embossing folders and giving you some tips when using your embossing folders as well. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this. I hope you learn some tips, get some new ideas, and maybe give it a go yourself. So let's get started and let's do some crafting. Okay, so this is today's card. So the stamp set that I'm using, or stamp and dies actually, is the Dainty Delight. So you can see this image here is the one that I'm using up the top. And there are quite a few dies that in this pack here that cut them out. So we've got the big one, which I've put aside here, which cuts out this image, and then it's got removable tape on it for cutting, and then we've got some other images as well that we can cut out, and this one here, and is there one more? Yes. So basically all the images on this can be cut out, but you'll see that there are other dies as well that can do other things. We've got some flowers, kind of leafy vine things, and extra things that you can use as well. So there's some complement to the stamp set, and then there's extra as well. So that's cool. And then the other set I'm going to use is the Something Fancy, which is a stamp set and dies, and in particular this die, which I've used for the happy birthday and for the sentiment. And these, so these are the sentiments. So there's a congratulations and a happy birthday. And I've actually got a thank you that fits in it as well from another set. And then these are the dies, nice for layering up. But in particular, this one goes in here. I've used that little one. So that gives you, yeah. But the main thing technique-wise that I want to show you is embossing and give you some tips with embossing. So the embossing folder that I've used on this card is the Cane Weave folder. I should probably have it that way, which is a 3D embossing folder. And there are a couple of types of folders. There's the 3D and the standard ones. So I'll show you the difference and give you some tips when using it. So I'll move these things out the way for the moment. All right, so if I lie them down, you probably can't see any difference, but if I turn them on their side, can you see that this one on the left is thicker than this one on the right? So this is a 3D embossing folder, which will give a deeper impression, and this is just your standard embossing folder. So you do have to remember this when you're using it with your Stampin' Cut emboss machine or whatever die cutting machine or embossing machine you've got, because thickness, depends what plates and things you use. So to make this card, I've used Fresh Freesia and Orchid Oasis. So I'm going to get a narrow piece in the middle, which is 6.5 centimeters by the height of the card, which is 14.9 or 14.85. So a piece like this, and put it in my embossing folder. Now you don't want it right up the top, because I don't know if you can see, there's a line up there where there's no pattern, so you'd get a blank line. So you want to bring it down slightly. And of course you don't want it wonky, otherwise your pattern will be wonky. So you want to kind of line it up straight. Now this piece is quite long. Sometimes I don't have it quite that length, and it's not quite straight. I don't know if you can see the pattern, so I'll just adjust it. Okay, then I can put it through. So I'm going to bring up my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine and give you some tips. Here it is. Okay, so when you're using a 3D embossing folder, you use, it says on here, I don't know if you can quite see, but it says here, using 3D embossing folders, use a 1 plate, your embossing folder, and then a number 4, which is what I've got here. So let's do that. So we're going to put this down, and I'm just going to recheck I haven't, oops, now it's moved, made it wonky. If it is a shorter piece, then you can kind of line it up with that line there, but mine's a bit longer. So I'm just going to adjust it so it's fairly straight. Some patterns don't matter if it's slightly wonky, but when you've got lines like this, it kind of does. So then I'm going to put this on top. So you don't want this right up at the edge, you want it back a bit further, and this one lined up at the top. And then we're going to wind it through like so. And you kind of hold it up the top with your hand to keep steady it, and it does go ka-chonk, but that's okay, don't panic. And I'll show you what it looks like. So here, cool pattern, isn't it? So that's the emboss side with it being raised. This is the deboss, the down side, where the embossing goes inwards. And this is, some people kind of call it texture embossing, but it's dry embossing as opposed to heat embossing when you use embossing powder. Now I'll just show you, if you were to use this folder, which is, not sure if it's Pretty Flowers or something, because it's narrower, it won't work with this. So all you do is read the instructions, and it says when using a standard embossing folder, we use a 1 plate and 2 3s, which are your cutting plates. So I would put this down first, 1 cutting plate, which you can see is very well used. That's always my bottom plate. And it's got a 3 on it somewhere. Oh, here, put it up the right way. So it's got a, can you see, a 3, I don't know if you can see, 3 there. Then you'd put your cardstock, your embossing folder with cardstock inside it. So let's say we'd put this inside. Okay, and then you put another 3 on top. So you can meet all these ones at the top, but just have this a bit further back. And the other thing to remember, I forgot to say before, is make sure the open end, the hinged end, goes in first. Okay, that's important that it goes in first. So then you do that, push it in a little bit to engage, and then once you start winding, hold the top and wind. Whoops, I'm bumping the camera, and wind it through. But I'm not going to emboss that one. So basically, if you forget, on the Stampin' Up! Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, the instructions are here. And die cutting is different again, but I'll show you that later when we get to that part. Okay, so we have our embossed piece now. And we will do other aspects of our card. So that piece that I was going to use before is what I'm going to adhere this to. So this is a fraction wider. It's 7 centimeters wide, and then I get the border. You could put 2 strips down the side, but then you may not get the, what do you call it, the spacing quite so exact. But if you kind of do this and put it in the middle, hopefully it's even on both sides. Okay, so we're just going to put that aside, and we're going to stamp our image. Now with this, I decided to use very vanilla rather than white, because sometimes white can be quite, you know, bright, stark, whatever you want to call it. So I've gone for vanilla just to kind of soften it a little bit. So I'm using this stamp here, and because I'm going to colour with Stamping Blends, I'm going to use Memento ink. And because it's a bigger stamp, sometimes I find it better to ink it up like that rather than put it onto the ink pad. So this is a very generous piece, so we'll just go in the corner, press it down, there we go, beautiful. And then we will cut it out, but it's probably easier to colour it now. So I'm not going to complete the whole colouring because it'll take too much time, but I'll just show you some things and then I'll use my finished one. So I've got Fresh Freesia, Stamping Blends and Old Olive. So I'm going to start with the lighter one and I'm going to colour my flowers. So I'm going to go with the light first and colour it in. And then I'm going to go with my dark and just add a bit of dark. So there's 2 ends. There's a thick end with a big brush and a thin end. I'm just using the thin end because it's quite detailed, and I'm just going in with a bit more colour. So you've got a bit of light and dark, so I don't know if you can see that. And then, I mean, for the really small flowers, you're probably just going to colour it with the light. But again, another big one. So colour it with the light, and then I'll go in and give it a bit more dimension, blending with the darker colour. Sort of go where the black lines are, if that makes sense. So I'd keep going with all the flowers, and then I'm going to do the leaves. So I'm using the light Old Olive and not really much blending because they're quite small. And sometimes it's just a tiny bit. Up here, I'm literally doing a little dot on each little bit. Like so. And then, you know, colour them all in. And then once I've coloured all in, I will get my die and put it over the top and line it up like so. Now I've got some removable tape which helps it stay in its place. You could use washi tape, or this is what I've got, and that just helps hold it in place. And then I'll show you with the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine the plates that I use, so it's going to be different. So I'll move that out the way. Now if you compare how thin the die is compared to the embossing folders we had before, you know, it's tiny, it's very, very thin. So obviously we need a different combination of plates. So it says on the machine, it's all here, when using thin dies, we need a 1, which is this one, a 2, which is an extra one to make it a little bit thicker, which I've got here. And then we need a 3 and a 4 with our cutting in the middle. So there's our 1, here's our 2. I will line them up afterwards, but so you can see them. 3, where's my die? Put that down. Now this is the one that I'm always cutting, that's why it looks like that. And then put this on the top, okay? But I will line them up and keep them all even now. Hopefully that hasn't moved. And then let it engage, and then hold it at the top and wind it through. And here we have, move that out the way, our die cut piece. Okay, just like that. Obviously, but wait, watch this. With video magic, it is suddenly coloured in. Ta-da! Okay, here's one I prepared earlier. All right, so back to our card. So that's what we've done so far. I'm going to stamp this a little bit ready, so then we kind of know where to place our ribbon. So ideally, we could just use the scraps of this and stamp like so. Oh, I've got an extra line there, I don't like that. So if I rock it, I don't know if you can see, there is quite a line there, so probably I need to clean it first. See, it's clean. And let's try that again. You don't want to rock it, so stamp it. Oh, I did it again. Oh dear. Okay, let's try the other end. So when I'm putting it in ink, I literally want to tap, tap, and then down, up. Yay, we got it right this time. Third time lucky. But these are on scraps, so that's okay. Then that die that I showed you earlier, which I've put in a safe place, is, here it is. I'm going to cut this out. So line it up, put it on, and then the same combination that we just did, and we will cut it out and then use that. But here is one that I have, no, that one didn't work. I'm trying to do another one quickly, but it's already cut. Here we go, here's one that I've got earlier. Okay, and then I also need the, well, I'll say blue, but it's not really blue, it's purple. So this here. So I'm going to adhere those together. So just put a little bit of glue there and put that on and overlap it like so. Cool. So we've got all the bits that we need to go on the front of our card now. So we're going to use some dimensionals. Right, the mini ones are good for this. So let's turn it over. and put on some mini dimensionals. Oops, a bit close to the edge. And scatter them around on this one too. So when the flowers are kind of sticking out the side, we can put them on. And maybe this one up here and over here. All right, now there's these bits that stick out. So a little tip is get your scissors, and these extra bits here, just cut a very, can't see where it is, thin piece. You've got to use it all up. And then you can put it there and also put it up here, like so. Isn't that great? Okay, now you have the fun of taking all these things off. And do you notice that they seem to go everywhere, stick to your clothes, and then you find them in other areas of the house? So we'll take all these off. Whoops. And I can tell which ones I've taken off because of the highlighted bits. Okay, so we're going to put that up near the top. There we go. And put this one down the bottom and leave a bit of space in the middle for our ribbon. Now the ribbon is Orchid Oasis. Oh, maybe down a little bit more. All right, it's a nice metallic kind of ribbon. So, whoops, knocking things over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a piece that is slightly wider than it, and I'm going to use my ribbon scissors, which have got this red bit on it, so I know. And we're going to put a bit of tape on the back. And here we go. Tuck it around and tape it down. So you want it fairly straight. So see how it's taped on at the back? Then we get another piece. I'm just going to estimate the length I need. Tuck it under. Whoops, tuck it under and stay under. And then tie a bow. Now quite often I would stick this on the card first and then add all my extra things, but because I wanted to sort of figure out where my ribbon was going to go, I kind of needed to put them on first and then the ribbon later. So I've done the order a little bit different this time. There we are. So then I find my card base, which is also fresh freesia, and I'm going to put that in the middle. So I like to use glue and then I can adjust it. Okay, there we go, beautiful. Now to finish it off, I'm going to stamp inside. So we've got two options. So this is very simple in the sense of just, well, I guess actually three options. Where's my third option? So option one is just stamp it and don't colour it. Option two is stamp it, colour it and glue it down. Option three is I've added a piece of Orchid Oasis behind it and then it kind of ties the front. So I quite like that. I did the other cards first, then I came up with this idea. So on this piece here, now stamp it first, because if you mess it up or do an extra line, you can turn it over and try again. So I'm going to use this stamp and do it a little bit more in the corner than I did in the other one. Okay, for the sake of time, I won't colour it, but I can come back and colour it later. But glue it in. But I do like the border around it. I think it just ties in nicely with the front. So where's my card? Here. And glue it inside. And there's one more thing that I've got to add to the front. Nearly forgot. Do you know what that is? Let's have a look at this card and this one here. So what has this card got that this card hasn't yet? Did you notice the butterflies? So here are my butterflies. Where is my take your pick tool? So here, love these brass butterflies. I've got lots of big ones, so we'll do two big and one little. I've got a little mark there, so I'm going to actually put it down there. I don't know if that works or not. Maybe we can get away with it. I don't know, there. Oh, let's just kind of hide it a little bit. But you can, I've put it on that end there, but that end there. but we can play around. All right, there we go, the finished card. So I hoped you liked the look of that. And then I'm going to show you another card, same design, but something slightly different with embossing. So if you can hang around for a few minutes, I'll show you the other card. So that's card number 1, and this is card number 2. So the difference between the two cards is this one has got vellum. So I've got my vellum, which is just kind of a see-through kind of paper. See how you can see through that? Just softens it. And I have embossed that. So I've used a different folder, and I've used a narrow folder, and a narrow folder actually works with the mini stamping and emboss machine, which I've got this little one here, which I've shown you before. And basically the same kind of thing with just follow the instructions on here. So with thin dies you use that, and then with this is a 3D embossing folder, so with a 3D embossing folder I'm going to use that. So where's my piece of, so I'm going to put my vellum in, this, line it up, again don't go too close to the top, put it down. Now with this machine it's quite important that you definitely make this one further back and this one level like that, so when it pushes in, you can't really see, it kind of squeezes down and goes through. If all three are lined up level, it makes it hard to go through, so always push that back a little bit, and we're going to push it through like so, and again push it in, then hold it and wind it. So you don't really want to see my hands, do you, or arms, and voila, there we go. So just so you can see the difference, whoops, that's the width of a standard embossing folder, and that's the width of the narrower ones, and the narrower ones fit in the mini machine, and even like this die would fit in the mini machine. Okay, so we have this. Now, next important thing is the only problem with the vellum, like I said, it's see-through, which means you can see the tape and glue as well. So I made this sample here before. You can see that line of where I put my snail. And then I put glue, and you can see my glue as well. So we don't want that. So we need to be a little bit careful about where we put our adhesive so we don't see it. So basically, we can put our adhesive down the middle and at the bottom, and we won't see it. And if you really want the corners to go in, you could get a dot of glue, very little dot of glue, and a sponge, and just sponge ever so slightly. I did that up there, and you can't really see it. So let's just go down the middle. Whoops, sometimes you have to just go on. So down the middle and across the bottom. Oh, you know what? I didn't go all the way down. Either I didn't put it, do it enough, or I had it hang over the edge, or the other thing I might have done was had the plate hanging over the edge like that. But that's okay, because I've got one that I prepared earlier. So we're going to use that one. So I could line it up, put it back in again, but we won't for the sake of time. So, oops. Oh, I think, oh, it's come right to the end. It's the finish of it. Just enough. Okay, so I've got tape down the middle, which you can kind of see, probably more when it's against something. I will just put a little dab, very little dab of glue in the top corners, and just basically, so it makes it sticky, but you can't really see it. And then we'll put that down. So we should hopefully have a border each side. So when I glue it, if I push, see, you can see where the tape is, there and there, but you can't really see it up there. So if you go very sparingly with this in a sponge, then you won't see it so much. Okay, again, we're not going to put it on the card because we want to put our ribbon on. So basically we're going to put this on. Now I've got, did I prepare one earlier? I thought I did a thank you somewhere, but it's gone walkies. But basically we're going to put that on with dimensionals. So what I'll do is I'm just going to put 2 on for now, and I will go back and do more later. I should have had it prepared with dimensionals on it. And I will find my little Happy birthday, thank you. Where is it? No. Okay. Well, I know, well, let's put the ribbon below that. So, I've run out of tape now, haven't I? Because it just finished. I've got another one. It's okay, although this is nearly at the end as well. Anyway, I think you get the idea. So we're going to put our, not our tape, our ribbon across. And basically do what we did to this card like we did the other one. I could actually adhere that now because I can put the bow on later. So that's quite good. But we want to hide that. But it's basically the same style card, but I've used Vellum instead of the cardstock. So basically you can use different things. So I won't finish it because the rest is the same. You'll notice I've used the, what are they called? Iridescent jewels, basic jewels for this one. And it kind of picks up the purpley colour. And you can do what we did inside like that. So today's cards, this one here, well, let's do them in the order. So this one here with the cane embossing folder, cane weave, and this one here with the stripes. And it's a, what do you call it, a double pack. You get two different embossing folders with that one. You get like a spotty one, or I can't remember what it's called. Splatters, I think it is actually. And then the stripes, and it's a narrow one. So yeah, I hope you found that useful. Just remember when you're using an embossing folder to not put it too near the edge, or you'll get that line, to have it nice and straight. Put this, the end that's hinged in first, and make sure your plates and things cover the whole thing. Otherwise you'll do something like that and not get it all through. And just make sure you know if it's a 3D embossing folder or a standard one, so you know what, you know, combination of plates and things. But I always love using embossing folders in dry embossing because it just adds to the card. Like, there's no DSP, no pattern paper on this, but the texture that you get from the embossing folders is really cool. And trying something like Vellum, you know, makes it quite different and just, you know, really adds to it. So there's different things you can try. So I'm going to do a little bit more next week with embossing as well, some other tips and other things you can do. So hopefully you'll join me next week as well. Before we go, I just want to let you know about something new. So we've got what's called online exclusives, which are a new range of products. And it's called an online exclusives because these products are not in a catalogue. You won't find them in the mini catalogue or the annual catalogue. They're just online. And this is just a flyer with a few things, but there's more. So we've got, you know, a new flower stamp set and dies. There's new papers. There's new embellishments. There's new embossing folders. These are 3D embossing folders. And there's much, much more. So the best thing you can do is go online to stampinup.nz/online-exclusives, and then you can see what is available. But there's some really cool things that are available there. But remember, you don't just have to order online. You can still contact me with an order, but you can only find those products online, not in the catalogue. If you don't have a copy of the mini catalogue, it's still out for a couple more months, and you don't have a demonstrator, feel free to get in contact with me and I'll be happy to send you one. And I've got the annual catalogue too, which has got the full range if you need that one as well. All right, so thank you for your time today. I hope you liked these cards and learnt a few tips and things with using embossing folders and using emboss and die cutting machines. So I hope it inspires you. If you really like the Dainty Delight bundle, the stamp set and dies, remember buying them together and you get 10% off. Please get in contact with me and I can help you get those. If you've got any questions anytime, please feel free to ask. I do appreciate your support, and if you've got any questions, yeah, I'd be happy to do my best and answer those. So thank you for your time today. I look forward to seeing you next week. So join me each week on Thursdays at 1:30 p.m. on our Facebook Live or the recording. Or if you're on YouTube watching this, please like the video and subscribe to my channel, and then you'll get updated with other videos that come too. All right, thank you so much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll speak to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.